Don't worry about a thing. I won't worry, cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Thunderstruck Podcast with Tori. I am your host, Tori Ancona. This is episode 8, where I talk about everything Los Angeles Chargers related, and what a rough loss on Sunday. I'm just gonna jump right into it. I didn't even write a script for this episode. I have enough in my head that I want to say. I just want to take accountability for really underestimating the New York Giants. Although they were really lucky that the 2 interceptions they got on Justin Herbert, they returned it to the 5-yard line or even inside the 5-yard line. I mean, I've never seen any, I haven't even seen a better startup for a rookie quarterback in a while. I mean, if the defense are returning interceptions inside the 5, I hope you would score touchdowns. But anyway, that's just me being salty. But Jackson Dart, he had the start that I really thought that was going to happen. He had less than 120 yards through the air, but I did not expect that he was going to be that damaging in the rushing attack, and that really surprised the Chargers defense. And you can tell that the lack of tape really showed for the Chargers defense, because they didn't really have enough tape to go over Jackson Dart that much, especially in this Giants scheme, which can be a favor for the Giants or a favor for the Chargers. But in this case, it was definitely a favor for the New York Giants. I want to also wish Malik Neighbors a speedy recovery, and I really hope he gets back from the torn ACL. It really shows an emphasis that the NFL really needs to invest in grass instead of turf. Far too many injuries that are non-contact that are happening, especially with Achilles injuries and knee injuries and hamstring injuries. It's really impacting, players. And, if you want people to tune in every Sunday, you need to invest how to keep your players as healthy as possible. Does grass take away injuries? No. Does grass potentially limit injuries? I think so. And I think that the NFL can afford it. So that was so unfortunate to see Malik Neighbors tear his ACL. It was so unfortunate. I was sick to my stomach, actually, because he was on pace to have a really good season, especially with Jackson Dart at quarterback. So I'm wishing Malik Neighbors a speedy recovery, and I'm pleading the NFL to invest in grass fields. But that's another conversation. The Chargers played probably one of the worst games on offense that I've seen in a while. Was there some positives? There's a couple, and we're going to touch it in this episode. But I also want to lay off the panic. The Chargers played an awful game and lost by 3 points. Did I think that the Giants made some plays that were really crucial to the game? Yes, of course. You have Cam Scatterboo. Jackson Dart made some incredible plays throughout the day. We only lost by 3 points. That really does speak volumes. That we can be self-inflicting us the whole game and still find a way to make it a 1-possession game. Matter of fact, make it 21-18. Now, I know everybody's going to be like, well, it's the Giants. They were 0-3. Well, it's the Giants. They're not the worst team in the NFL. And quite frankly, they've been always being competitive with teams, especially the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like if Jackson Dart were to start against the Cowboys, I can feel comfortable with saying that the Giants would beat the Cowboys, because their pass rush is one of the best in the NFL. I didn't even mention him in the last episode. I don't know why, but Brian Burns is a superstar. They have that on the D-line. They also have Dexter Lawrence, also have that on the D-line. He also got an interception, a phenomenal interception that wasn't even Herbert's fault, but he made that play. They have Dexter Lawrence, and then they also have Kayvon Thibodeau. And then they also have a first-round pick in Abdul Carter. It's a phenomenal D-line and pass rushing attack that I really wasn't educated on in the last episode. That's why I was so confident. But at the same time, it really showed. And especially with all the injuries that we have on the offensive line, it really showed that the Giants had a major advantage over the Chargers on that aspect, which was the name of the game. I mean, Herbert will complete some balls under pressure, but you cannot rely on that type of pass blocking to win you football games. He cannot be pressured 68% of his passing dropbacks. He cannot. That is awful. Probably the worst O-line performance I've seen from the Chargers in a minute, and I've seen quite a few awful performances. Why did this happen? Well, Joe Alt, unfortunately, went down with a high ankle sprain. Also, to kind of look on the positive side, Joe Alt could have missed more time. The Chargers play, the Commanders next week, then it's the Dolphins, then it's the Colts, and then my memory gets a little fuzzy there. But I will say that the teams that we're playing, I think they're winnable games if we have a healthy O-line with protecting Justin Herbert as much as possible. I really think we can win actually all those games. The Colts game is going to be tough, but I really think that the Chargers defense will step up at that time. Also, Denzel Perryman should return at some point in the next couple weeks, if not this week, which would be massive for this defense to lay off the load of Deion Henley, who is taking just so much responsibility in that starting position, which I feel comfortable with, but at the same time, it would really help to have a veteran linebacker in there as well. But I'm going to mention this, Joe Alt with the high ankle sprain. He suffered it in the first quarter. He wanted to actually go back in the game via reports that I saw on Twitter, but the Chargers doctors unfortunately had to tell him we need to preserve you. We already have Rashawn Slater out for the year. We cannot lose you for more time than what is already suggested. So he's going to be probably on IR for the next 4 to 5 weeks. He should be back by November 9th against the Steelers, is my guess. So he'll miss like a month at least, which sucks. But how can we overcome this injury? One, I really hope that Mekhi Becton comes back from concussion protocol as soon as possible. Now, I don't want to rush the protocol, obviously, but if he doesn't play this week against the Commanders, he'll definitely play against the Dolphins. Because when Mekhi Becton gets back from concussion protocol, you need to put him at right guard. That's number one. When Mekhi Becton is back, Jamari Salyer, who has been filling in for right guard, has struggled quite a bit. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He's struggled quite a bit at that position. And the experience that he had at tackle in college brought him in as a Rashawn Slater replacement 2 years ago when Rashawn Slater had a season-ending injury. As a rookie, he filled in for the left tackle position, and he played 1,000 snaps, over 1,000 snaps. And as a rookie, a 6th-round pick, he only gave up 5 sacks, which is phenomenal for a rookie. He played some snaps at left tackle in the preseason against the Rams. I did notice that. But Austin Delcius at the 3rd string isn't a bad option, but at the same time, I think Jamari Salyer filling in for Austin Delcius would be far more better and will give more time for Herbert to throw, which was the name of the game. I mean, the pass rush didn't really give Herbert a second, quite frankly. So, although Herbert got sacked 2 times only, which felt not even true, he got pressured 68% of his offensive snaps, which is inexcusable. But Jamari Salyer needs to play at left tackle. And I'm going to say this again for any Chargers fan, any football fan. Jamari Salyer needs to start at left tackle. Because Bradley Bozeman is on and off of being an improved player from last year, but then this week he was struggling. So Andre James, I would like to see at center. Okay, and then right guard, Mekhi Becton, when he's back, I really hope he's back this week. And then I'm comfortable with Trey Pipkins at right tackle. There's some pass reps where he doesn't look good at that position, but he's the best that we got for right tackle. And we played a whole season with him at right tackle and made the playoffs. So, he has experience with that aspect. But I really want, this is probably going to be the title of the episode. I really want Jamari Salyer at left tackle until Joe Alt returns. But Jamari Salyer, I'm saying it again, play him at left tackle. That's probably the best football he's ever played in the NFL. It was him at left tackle. But yeah. The few positives that I did get from the Giants game was 3 positives. One, Quentin Johnston is probably going to be comeback player of the year at this point. He's probably wide receiver number 1 at this point. I know Ladd McConkey coming off his worst career game. It happens. I'm not going to give up on McConkey just yet. I actually think he's going to have a huge week next week against the Commanders, but I will talk about that in the next episode. Keenan Allen had some great plays, but, no time to throw for Herbert. Quentin Johnston seemed to be the only receiver to really react to the pass in under a second. So shout out Quentin Johnston, you're a monster. And Amarian Hampton, speaking of monsters, he finally awakened I know when it comes to rookie running backs, it really takes a second for you to get your feet wet and get familiar with the scheme, but I think Amari Hampton has arrived. He had 128 rushing yards. He had really good flashes in the receiving game, which I do not know why Greg Roman ran away from it, especially given that Herbert has no time to throw. Really adjust to maybe we use Hampton in the pass a little bit more. He is a yak monster. I mean, there was one run where he literally carried 12 players with him for 12 yards, even though it should have been like a 1-yard gain. He is a physical runner, and honestly, I expect the Chargers to really utilize him in the rushing attack a little bit more than he did in the last game, even though he got 128 yards. I think he got like 19 touches. I think it's going to bump up to like 25, 26 touches next game. I also want to mention, why didn't we use any other running back touches? Hassan Haskins and Kamani Vidal were available, and we didn't give them any touches, and it really was shocking to me. So I really want the Chargers to really utilize that. Hey, we have some runners that isn't just Amari and Hampton, so maybe we experiment with that next week. And then the third and final positive that I realized was probably the best performance for any Charger player, and that is Tuli Tuipulotu. This guy had 10 tackles, 4 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. Best career game I've ever seen from Tuli. I think he also got a forced fumble. I'm not sure about that, actually. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but Tuli Tuipulotu is a stud. Imagine if Khalil Mack is healthy. The stuff that we can do. And honestly, I think he will be back in 1 to 2 weeks with that arm injury, knowing how fast those heals. He'll probably return, let's see, in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah, Chargers are riddled with injuries. What else is new? But at the same time, can they overcome it? Yes. We overcame injuries with Brandon Staley as head coach. Think about that. And we made the playoffs. And although we had a horrible playoff game in that season, we can make it work. We have a superstar quarterback. We have superstar receivers. We have a really promising superstar running back on the rise. We have still a top 10 defense. I know they struggled a little bit, but I think that came from the lack of tape that we had of Jackson Dart on the Giants. We're not familiar with the scheme, and now we do, a little bit too late actually, what the Giants want to do with Jackson Dart. But I think that is a huge advantage for the Giants that we didn't really have any tape on him. Now, should the Chargers have overcame that? Absolutely. But, it happens. It happens to good teams too. They lose to teams that you never would have thought that they would beat them. The Packers, for instance, a few weeks ago, lost to the Cleveland Browns. You would have never thought that would have happened. A few years ago, the Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Baltimore Ravens. You would have never thought that would have happened. And you would have never thought that the game after the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl a few years ago, that the rebuilding Detroit Lions would beat them in week 1. You would have thought that. It happens in the NFL, unfortunately, where, you have trap games and you lose the games that you should have beat, but you learn from it. And we have a great coaching staff, so I guarantee you that we'll overcome this loss. And I will talk about in the next episode how important it is to really make sure we get a win against the Commanders, which is going to be a tough game, but we'll talk about it in the next episode. But meanwhile, I'm going to call it an episode. Follow me on every single platform for updates and notifications when I upload next. I'm definitely going to upload on Saturday the Chargers versus the Commanders preview, so be out on the lookout for that. And I still have faith, and you got to keep the faith. And you got to remember, we're still 3-1. Could have been worse. I would have thought that the Chargers at best would be 2-2, but we're 3-1. Still number 1 in the division, but Chargers will overcome. Knock on wood. All right, Bolt gang or don't bang. Bolt fam, have a great rest of your day, and peace.